Welcome to the Jill on Money Show. It's Thursday, May 11th, and this is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. Now, most days, the way we do that is we answer your financial questions. We encourage you to go to our website, jillonmoney.com, click on the Contact Us button, and of course, click that little box that says you'd be willing to come on the air. And then producer Mark will do everything else because he's fantastic. While you're on the website, few things to consider. Number one, why don't you just bookmark it in case you have to go back and, oh, what was that site again? Oh, yeah, Jill on Money, Jill on Money. No, just go to your bookmarks. While you're on the site, you'll know that we refresh our content all the time. So that means that there's always a little bit of information in the blog section, also the video section, the resources, the other podcasts, the radio show, all sorts of stuff there. You can also sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Now, if you've got a little extra cash on hand, you can buy my book, The Great Money Reset. This is a book that really came about because of you, the great questions that you have asked me over my time on the radio, on TV, even in my own financial planning practice a million years ago, but it accelerated during the pandemic. So if you're contemplating a big change in your life, you have to get the book, The Great Money Reset. We've got links to all the different places where you can buy the book. You can also subscribe to our new service, Jill on Money Live. That's where you'll have access to quarterly live webinars and more special content. Now, I noted as we started the show that we usually answer your questions. However, yesterday was kind of an interesting day because we got an inflation report out from the government. So the consumer price index for April was up month over month. It's down overall, the right direction. We've seen 10 straight months of prices going down or decelerating. We peaked at 9.1% in the headline CPI back in June of 2022. We're now at 4.9% year over year. At the core level, which pulls at food and energy, prices are up 5.5% from a year ago, again, down from the peak, but still high. You know, if you look at wages are up 4.4% from a year ago, inflation up 5.5%. It's a lot. Inside of this report, a couple of things to note. The fact is that energy prices, yes, they're down from a year ago. They went up month to month. They're down again this month, so there'll be some relief in the next report. But I do keep an eye on shelter. Shelter is coming down, but it's still up 8.1% from a year ago. Gas price is down 12.2%. All of this is good. The food category has remained a real thorn in the side of all of us. Food overall, prices up 7.7% from a year ago, down from 8.5%. But if you're trying to figure out, do I want to take my mother out for Mother's Day, for brunch, lunch, or dinner, or do I want to prepare something at home? I would encourage you to do something at home. Food costs at home up by 7.1%. Food away from the home, i.e. restaurants, up by 8.6%. Okay, so inflation is clearly an issue that is remaining with us in this economy, and it's putting a lot of pressure on people. And this leads me to the segment that I did yesterday for CBS Mornings. And it was about debt because we are closing in on $1 trillion of outstanding credit card debt. And with interest rates higher than they were a year ago, this is putting even more pressure on households. So we decided it was time to check in on debt with the morning show. Here is the segment that I did yesterday with Tony DeCopel, Gail King, and Vladimir Duthier, who is in for Nate Burleson. And when we come out the other side of this segment, I have a few other issues that I just want to touch upon.
In today's Money Watch, we are talking about Americans' soaring credit card debt on top of auto, student, and other consumer loans, as well as mortgages, of course. Get this, overall credit card debt now approaching $1 trillion, surpassing the pre-pandemic high. So it's an all-time high. And the cost isn't only financial. Almost half of people in a recent survey say debt has a negative effect on their mental health, including giving them feelings of stress, of depression, anxiety, loss of sleep as well. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger joins us now to help with all of that and our money problems. Jill, thank you very much for being here. Geez, $1 trillion, that is a lot. How do we get here?
Well, if you go back to before the pandemic, there was credit card debt that was building up. But then amid the pandemic, we were seeing people not just pay down their debt, but also build up their savings. According to the Federal Reserve, in sort of the first 18, 20 months of the pandemic, we saw Americans save $2.3 trillion more than they would have without the pandemic. Then you know what happens. We open up. We have that surge of like, I want to spend money. I want to feel normal.
I want to
again.
buy something.
I want to buy something, right? And that's okay. People did eat into their savings. But the problem is that as inflation started to creep into our lives, people plowed through their savings, especially lower to middle income Americans. Then all of a sudden they're like, wait, the grocery store costs more. The gas pumps cost more. Now I have to go into credit card debt just to pay my bills.
And something I know from bitter experience is if you don't pay the balance in full each month, you're hit with interest. And that interest goes up when interest rates go up, right?
Yes. If you look back just to the beginning of 2022, before the Fed started raising interest rates, average credit card balances were 14, 15%. They're now over 20%. So this is becoming a real big issue for many Americans.
It's so awful to feel that you're paying and still not making any headway.
Yes. Brutal.
It feels so
awful.
It really does. So debilitating. So what are your top 3 tips for people trying to get out of this?
Amazingly, if you talk to a lot of these companies, they will give you some reprieve. So you've got to call and ask, hey, can I get a little break? Can you lower the interest rate? Is there any way out? This is a huge thing.
It really is a matter of just asking?
Yes, it actually works. You can also consider the balance transfer. So people with decent credit scores can go and say, hey, I'm going to move this balance to another card at 0% for 12 months or 15 months. And it helps you get a jump on it. The only downside is if you don't pay it back in that time, you know what's going to happen. Your rate's going to pop right back up. And I think the third thing is to try to automate as much as possible, right? Just get an amount of money every single month out of your account to get ahead of those payments, even if it's just 10 or 20 bucks a week. One thing that I did want to bring up in this segment, we just didn't have time, was this concept of buy now, pay later plans. Now, these are just installment plans. And, it's like very old school, but we have reformatted them and we can now say BNPL. This is where you usually pay about a quarter of the purchase price now, then you defer the rest of the cost into smaller equal pieces in the future. Maybe it's 4 payments and maybe it's 6 payments. This usually does not require a hard credit check, which can, of course, hurt your credit score. Now, it's like a credit card in that if all goes well and you make your payments on time, there's usually not a big interest payment. However, of course, if you do miss your payment time horizon, then you can see wildly high interest rates, some as high as 30% for the buy now, pay later loans. And so just be careful with these things. Also, I wanted to just put this out there because we had been getting some questions recently on this show and we talked about bankruptcy. I actually looked this up because I wanted to make sure we circled back around. So voluntary bankruptcy, it is a legal process. It's established under federal law. This is essentially a way for people who cannot pay their debts to eliminate or discharge the legal obligation to pay most, maybe all, of certain types of consumer and business debts. It's a fresh start. Now, again, I hate judging this because the most common reasons that Americans file for bankruptcy, those include job losses, medical debt, and divorce. And anyone who's been through anything like that knows, you are looking for a fresh start. Just a reminder that not all debts are discharged under bankruptcy. Personal bankruptcy does not erase debts like child support or alimony, parking violations and fines, student loans, and recent federal and state income taxes owed. Oh, and one last thing. A bankruptcy can stay on your credit report for up to 10 years and certainly will impair your ability to obtain credit, sometimes insurance, and sometimes even the ability to rent an apartment. That's it. That is your inflation, debt, bankruptcy wrap up for the day. Want to thank you all so much for joining us. Remember, if you do have a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Just go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button. Let us know if you want to come on the air. Mark does everything else. And you can check out all of our great content. It lives on the website. And please, if you wouldn't mind, leave us a rating and review on Apple. It really does help us. Lift someone up, change your work, change your wealth, change your life. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow.